we've done the entire session and since I became governor. And I think, importantly, when I went out, I listened to people, whether it was mayors, whether it was county commissioners, whether it was everyday people trying to figure out what is the best thing for this state and what is it you really want as citizens and what do we do for the workers who are out there and the moms and dads who are out there every day. And the two things above all, and you've heard me say this many times, but they had to deal with infrastructure and workforce development. And I'm proud at the end of this session that both of those major accomplishments are going to be made and that we're going to be able to utilize them. The programs we have, whether it's Fast Track, whether it's One Start, whether it's closing funds. But the reality of that is that's going to help thousands upon thousands of Missourians and prepare them for the workforces of tomorrow. And to give Missouri a competitive edge against other states that we're competing with every day to get those things done. And by doing that, we'll really be able to help us focus on the next generations coming up and what we'll be able to allow them to be prepared for the workforce, especially in those high-demand jobs that we've talked about all year. And we all know, no matter where you live in the state of Missouri, how important that is for all regions of the state to meet those demands. The other thing you've heard me talk about since I became governor is infrastructure. Today, the House finished up the bonding bill that was out there. It was a piece of legislation that will be coming to my desk, and I look forward to that coming here when the day comes. I look forward to signing that bill. Because when you look at what we did for the state of Missouri in that bonding proposal, how it affects almost every region in the state of Missouri. It doesn't matter whether it's urban area, rural area, it's going to have an effect on everybody throughout this state. And to be able to do that by working together with the House and the Senate is what we should do here in Jefferson City sometime. That's my role as governor, trying to figure out how do you come to solutions instead of gridlock. And I'm really proud of what we've been able to do here in Missouri this year. And if you compare this to what sometimes the federal level does, you know what gridlock is and what it costs. But I think all through this session, through this week, we've been trying to work together, trying to find solutions for major issues. And I'm just so happy that it'll be done. When this infrastructure package will be complete with a 5-year STIP plan through MoDOT, there'll be over $1 billion worth of construction that will come out of this for the state of Missouri. And that means thousands upon thousands of jobs throughout this state, which is important to me. And I think that's going to make even our economy will even become stronger. As we know, we have record numbers of unemployment in our state. And if you look at the tax incentives on the national level and the state level, what that's doing for everyday people to put money back in their pockets and to be able to get those things to the state level, it's just going to be a great time for people to invest in Missouri. I think we're going to have a great opportunity to bring businesses in the state like we've never had before and to grow our population. But more importantly, trying to keep our own men and women here in Missouri. Trying to keep those kids that are graduating out of high school and colleges, trying to give them the opportunities they need to stay here right in Missouri. Because nobody will build our economy better than people that are from Missouri and people that live in Missouri, and that people will come here someday because of what the example we set on that. Needless to say, agriculture is always a huge deal for me. I've always been an advocate of agriculture. That's pretty well a given. Most of you know that. But we've had some really significant movement this year in agriculture, and you know, with the Director Chin has helped with that, moving those bills forward. You know, it's opened the doors for Missouri farm families to meet growing world food demands and ensure we keep more ag production in our state. And when you look at agriculture sometimes, it's one of those things that's overlooked sometimes in our state. And when you look at the demand on agriculture for the future of the country and the future of the world, when you think that you have to double the production of agriculture in the next 40 years, which took us 240 years to meet the demands of the world, there's going to be some great opportunities there through technology, through science. And we're going to change the way we're doing in agriculture in this state to meet those demands. And we are so fortunate to have agriculture in our state to be part of that industry. And, you know, on the tort reform issue, when you had Venue Joiner improving businesses, the business climate, providing another boost to our strong economy, you know, downsizing government was one of the things we did, you know, with some of the things we did, especially in corrections that we done. And Ann's here, the director's here with us today, but when you talk about shutting down a correction facility, which has never been done in the state of Missouri that I'm aware of, to really start trying to focus on people, how do we streamline that, and how do we make sure that people are incarcerated, are getting the skills they need to go into the workforce instead of building more prisons. And I've said all along, I don't want to do that anymore. But I can't say enough for what she's done for the Department of Corrections and the things that she's brought forward to take care of our employees, the concerns that we've had in the state of Missouri, and what she's done to do that. So with that is another issue, and by closing that one penitentiary down, we'll save $20 million. right off toward state government. So when we start talking about downsizing and streamlining, I really mean those things. They're just not buzzwords that you normally hear. You know, I asked the Director of Economic Development, which we'll talk about it here in a minute, but his agency had over 800 people in it. You know, and frankly, it wasn't very efficient. It wasn't efficient like we want it to be when you start talking about workforce and where we're going and tomorrow as far as recruiting businesses and taking care of people to be trained to that workforce. And we're going to take that down, that economic development department down from over 800 down to less than 200 by August, and make sure they streamline on what they're supposed to be doing and not a lot of things they probably shouldn't have been doing in the first place. So I'm looking forward to making those streamlining government for that, and I think that's really important when you do that. You know, the other thing I want to talk about is the budget process that we went through this year. You know, when I started out the budget, I didn't know what to expect. We know where revenues were, and all along, you know, we were concerned about those numbers. When I put the budget together this year, I tried to look at the budget from a business perspective. That was long overdue for me to do that, and I tried to look at, okay, how can we get the job done in Missouri? We streamline government. We are very responsible with taxpayers' money. And how do I make sure when something maybe doesn't go like we expect it to go, what do you do? So one of the initial things is we tried to put a pretty good budget together, a pretty conservative budget together. And one of the things that I was really proud of getting done through my administration is that we left $100 million on the bottom line in case we need it for unseen things that could occur here in our state. And you couldn't see any more time of it when you talk about tornadoes that have hit the state recently, when you talk about flooding all the way from the Missouri River to the Mississippi River, to other things that occur just in the everyday businesses like everybody else runs your businesses. It's always good, and for most of us, we have to live our lives to where we have to be conservative and save our money in case we do have things on that. The other thing is that proud of, when you do the internet, we put more money on broadband. I know the Director of Agriculture is very happy with that, along with a lot of people in rural Missouri trying to make sure they have access to broadband on that. The other thing was we fully funded K-12 education again. And I think that's the third year in a row we've done that. And it's truly trying to focus on making sure our kids have the education tools they need to be successful in the near future. And finally, just to creating the culture of life in our state. You know, I've been pretty clear where I've been from day one on Right to Life. As we've seen, we just passed a piece of legislation here that you all know that what attention that's drawn all the way from this state to the national level. But I think that's important. I think that's showing Missourians' values, and it's a piece of legislation that will be signed in the near future. But I think always, it's the most important to protect women's health and advocate for the unborn. That's always important to me. And so with that, I'm going to let Director Dixon say a few words on economic development.
Thank you, Governor. Hi, I'm Rob Dixon. I'm the Director of the Missouri Department of Economic Development. This has been a historic legislative session for economic development in the state of Missouri. The fact is our state has not been competing well in economic development, and in many cases we're falling behind other states across the country. The reason for that is because we didn't have a laser focus on the top issues facing business, really workforce development and infrastructure. The governor's laser focus on those issues, the legislature's laser focus on those issues have now helped us through the course of this legislative session to develop a set of tools that will allow Missouri to compete with anyone in the country, to compete with the best states in the country, and to win. And I wanted to talk about a couple of those things specifically. Obviously, earlier this week, there was a lot of discussion on Senate Bill 68. In Senate Bill 68, of course, the governor's workforce development package was passed. That included a new scholarship program to help adults get placed into high-demand job fields and to receive education and training for the most in-demand jobs in our economy with Fast Track. The Missouri One Start program helps us recruit, help train and onboard new employees and existing employees when companies are in the midst of a major expansion. The Deal Closing Fund allows us to use our tools more competitively and more strategically to compete with those other states, but to do it in a more fiscally responsible way and a more strategic way than we have been before. And of course, the General Motors package, of course, is something that's going to allow us to drive a massive investment in our state's economy. All of these things are going to allow the state of Missouri to be more competitive in economic development. And as the governor mentioned, our reorganization as a department is going to allow our team, the employees of the Missouri Department of Economic Development, to be laser focused on those issues every single day as well. Workforce development and infrastructure are the top issues in economic development. These are the things that are going to make our state win, and this is a great day for economic development in the state of Missouri. I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Patrick McKenna, Director of the Missouri Department of Transportation.
Thanks, Rob. I want to say it's been 15 years since we've seen the type and level of investment that has just happened, just passed today with Senate Concurrent Resolution 14. The House and the Senate worked together under the governor's leadership to bring forward a significant investment package in Missouri's future. And when we focus on bridges, and that's what this plan does, the focus on bridges will enable us over the next several years to accelerate work on about 250 bridge projects, critical for not only the current status of the state, economic development and the safety and reliability of all Missourians, but this is an investment in the future. The best part about this plan is these investments are assets that are developed with taxpayer money to benefit taxpayers, and they're going to last for 50 to 75 years. That's a long-term investment, and that's exactly what Governor Parson has been bringing to his leadership, and he's been encouraging us to work on things that have long life for Missouri citizens, to make Missouri better for Missouri. This investment is historic. It took a lot of work by the legislature, both in the House and the Senate, tremendous leadership on the part of the governor. We are ready to work and get going with that. We're going to have a set of bridges that'll be under contract by the end of this calendar year. Our team's ready to go, and we couldn't be more pleased. In addition, the legislature and through the governor's leadership, there's a $50 million investment in a cost share program. We'll be working alongside our friends and partners in economic development to look for those high value targets that are going to help encourage businesses to come and invest here and to have that economic development and the return for taxpayers through that point. And I also want to thank Governor Parson for his support of the state workforce. It's incredibly important. We have hardworking, dedicated people throughout state government, and on behalf of the Missouri Department of Transportation and the Missouri Highway and Transportation Commission, we thank you for your leadership there. It's a wonderful day, and it's been a long, hard session, and it's been a successful session, and that comes from the leadership of the governor. I'd like to pass this over to my colleague, Chris Chin, with the Department of Agriculture.
Thank you, Patrick. I'm Chris Chin, Director at the Missouri Department of Agriculture. Agriculture is a family business. 97% of Missouri's farms and ranches are family-owned. With the passage of Senate Bill 391, we have a consistent regulatory framework in place now to help us build our rural communities and bring that next generation back home to our family farms and ranches. We have sent a loud and strong signal to our kids who are in colleges and in trade schools, letting them know that agriculture wants you. We're here to bring you back home. The latest U.S. Census on agriculture shows that the average age of a farmer is nearing 58 years of age. But when you look at the livestock sector for the state of Missouri, we have the youngest amount of farmers in the livestock sector. Those are farmers that are under the age of 35 years, and it's important for us to make sure we continue to bring the youth back. We're excited about this opportunity to make sure that the next generation knows that they're welcome in our rural communities. The passage of the funding for the broadband project, we're really excited about that as well. That's $5 million. It's going to be a matching grant that will be a private-public partnership that's going to help make sure that farmers and ranchers and citizens in our rural communities have the access that they need to high-speed internet access. The technology that's available today in agriculture would not be possible if we didn't have the internet. We've got to make sure that every farm and ranch, every rural school, every rural business has the ability to have access to high-speed internet so they can be successful and keep our rural communities alive and thriving. So we're really excited about all of the things that happened this session. We're very appreciative of Governor Parson's support. As a farmer himself, he knows how important it is to bring that next generation back home to the farm and ranch. He also knows how important of a tool high-speed internet access is as well. So we really appreciate it. Our farmers and ranchers are excited to see that rural Missouri was not left behind in this legislative session. And it was because of the leadership of the governor and the legislature that some of this success was actually becoming a reality for us. So we appreciate all of the hard work that went into this, and we're excited that agriculture was a part of the conversations. At this time, I'd like to pass it over to my colleague, Director Ann Presythe with the Department of Corrections.
Thank you. It is such a pleasure to be here, and I'm very humbled because I feel like my message of appreciation is really on behalf of all state employees. And we would definitely like to thank Governor Parson for his leadership, as well as the legislature for recognizing the work that state employees do every single day throughout the state of Missouri. With the 3% bump for the cost of living, that is going to be a warm reception by all of the state employees, because they all work so hard to do the best they can to provide the services across this state. I am exceptionally proud of having this relationship with the governor and the General Assembly for the recognition that they gave the Department of Corrections. Through our consolidation efforts and our reorganization of facilities, we were able to bring some additional funding to the table for corrections employees that not only reward the job they do, but it rewards experience for what they do. So we are really looking forward to this opportunity, because the main goals were to increase staff safety by getting our facilities full with staff. And we expect that this pay increase for corrections is also going to help improve our recruitment efforts as well as retention, because valuable, knowledgeable state employees can never be taken for granted. And we want to appreciate them in every way. And one of the ways that's important to state employees is through their paycheck. So, Governor, we really appreciate your support and your leadership on that. And on behalf of all state employees, thank you so much.
We'll take a few questions now.
Governor? Let me, before you ask those questions, let me just wrap up by saying one thing that I think is important. Last year when I became governor, I'm not sure what any of us expected. I'm not sure I knew what I expected out of what's all happened in a year's time. But I do want to say this, for the people that has worked in the governor's office under the circumstances that they come in here, and for us to be able to hit the ground running back in June and to stay focused on what the priorities were for the state. You know, I just appreciate the people that work in this office and what they meant to me, and these directors and cabinet members that stayed with us and worked their way through this session. And this is probably, most of you that's been around here for some time, you realize a lot of the issues that we're talking about, a lot of the issues that went through this legislation are definitely hard lifts. These are controversial issues that we've been through. No matter just where you look at it, we went through, we got them done. And I think, again, I just want to just say this. Sometimes it's about sitting at the table, trying to figure out solutions, working out problems, and making sure we move forward and keep focused on what's really Missourians want. Not what people like all of us want sometimes, our personal life. It's really what the people of Missouri wants, and how do you meet those demands. So with that, I'd be glad to take a few questions.
The abortion bill does not...
The abortion bill, what is your reaction to the passage, and when do you plan to sign it?
Well, one, we will sign it, and I've always supported the pro-life movement here in this state. I think the majority of Missourians do support that, and I'm not sure when we'll sign it. It's just a matter when we get all the bills in and we start scheduling a date to sign it, but there's no set date on it this point.
Jason?
Governor, can you explain to me, if this becomes law as upheld, why it's acceptable there be no exceptions for rape and incest if somebody wants an abortion, if they're a rape or victim of incest?
Yeah, I think that's the way the language in the bill is, and that's what they voted on, what the legislators voted on. That's going to come to my desk, and that's the provision that's in there.
But why do you feel comfortable signing a bill that does not include exceptions for rape or incest?
I will sign the bill as it presented to me.
But why? Why do you feel that that's
because I'm the governor of the
appropriate?
state of Missouri, and that's what I do. If this legislator send a bill to me, I'm going to sign it.
Do you support having no exceptions? Not included rape and incest? Does it give you any pause at all a thought of vetoing the bill and sending it back to include those inclusions?
We're going to sign the bill that is. I've answered that a couple of times now. I'm
You
going to sign the bill as it is.
You haven't answered
Because it's a piece of
why.
legislation that those legislators voted on. I believe in the pro-life side of the issue, and I'm going to sign the bill.
Do you feel comfortable signing a bill that opponents say is a clear violation of the current constitutional landscape in this country?
I think it's important when we pass legislation. One of the things that I believe, regardless whether it's this issue or any other issue, one, does it meet constitutionally for our state? Does it meet what I believe to be constitutional in our state? I believe this piece of legislation does meet this. Now, there's going to be challenges to this. You all know this all started in 1973. There's going to be court challenge to this issue throughout the years to come. We all know that's in here. Everybody pretty well has their view. It's a very emotional issue for a lot of people. They're going to have their view whether they support or they don't. I don't know that we're going to change anybody's opinion right now on anything on that particular issue. Most people know where they're at.
You talked about things that you're pleased with. Are there any disappointments, given the fact that they still have an hour to go?
You know what, I'm extremely proud of the work that's been done this year by the governor's office and by the legislatures. I think we're going to have a lot of accomplishments to talk about. When we go back to infrastructure across the state, when we go back to the workforce development pieces, we talk about reorg government. I think there's going to be a tremendous amount of opportunities to go out there and talk to everyday people and trying to make their lives a little better. And I think that's what we're going to focus on in the months and the days to come, of how we present that.
Are you gonna restart the LIHTC program without legislative approval?
You know, we got till 6 o'clock to figure out whether we're going to get that done or not. So on that. So, you know, right now I think there's been a lot of great discussion on that bill. I think there was an opportunity for the legislatures to do something, and I'm still hopeful they get something done by 6 o'clock.
Governor, heartbeat bills have been struck down in some courts. Why do you think that this legislation could withstand court challenge?
Well, I think one is the heartbeat of the 8 weeks. I think will be a legal issue that will be decided, but I think it'll hold up in the courts. I do here in the state of Missouri. We'll see, but you know, that's me predicting what the courts do, and I don't know what they're going to do on that.
Governor, I know you said you thought you answered the question, but specifically, why do you personally support having no exemptions for rape and incest in the abortion ban bill?
Look, I think all life has value to it. All life does. And I've been pretty clear about that my entire career, you know, and I'm going to stand up for the people that don't have a voice. And everybody should have a right to life, and I believe that.
Do you believe that right to life supersedes a victim's right to, not carry a child that was incest or rape?
I believe the child has rights, is what I believe. That's what I do. Look, I've asked and answered as much as I can on this issue. I don't think we're going to get any further where you've already went. Not that I'm worried about it, but there's a lot of important things out there, and I know you want to ask that. It's a hot issue, but I'm trying to answer it the best I can, but we just keep going down with another question of it.
About LIHTC, you said that there's still an hour left on it. I know that you've been personally reaching out to lawmakers about the program. I know you want reforms.
Yep, right.
But what's the sticking point? You know, why are the two houses, what are you hearing about why the houses aren't coming together on this issue?
You know, anytime you're trying to come to a compromise, you know, it's trying to find that fine line where you get to an agreement, you know. I think there's a presentation out there right now. I think there's a way to get it done. I hope the legislators get it done. It's important to get these programs back up. There is some people out there that need that, but I want to be clear about this. I've told the industry as a whole, you know, there's going to have to be reform to this for it to move forward. So, you know, it's up to them.
On the county by county should be overturned.
Pardon me?
Do you believe Roe versus Wade should be overturned?
Yeah, I do. I believe Roe should be overturned. And I think there'll be a day come we may see that.
On the county by county agriculture ban, I mean, what do you say to people who think that their water and their air is going to be dirtier because this bill passes? And do you think that state standards should be stronger on CAFO since everyone has to abide by the same rules now?
Yeah, I think when you come to air quality or water quality, I think that should be by the state level, and I think we should have people in place. I'm confident the DNR can handle that to make sure that's done. There's already regulations in place, so we're not allowing anybody to break the law. We still got laws in place to make sure that we look at that, and we will. We'll continue to do that. We're going to make sure the environment's protected. We're going to make sure other people's rights are protected.
But you know that opponents of this bill say that the state standards are weak by comparison to the county standards.
Well, you know, everybody has opinions, different opinions of different things. I think at the end of the day, you got to figure out, you know, what is the right thing to do and where's the state's role with this. And I think the state's role right now is to regulate this. All right, thank you.
We have the wireless one as well.
Yes.
Okay, you ready to grab it?
Yep, and I got all this stuff.